All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you, just like me. First order of business, I want to thank all the new patrons that are coming on board with the channel, signing up for Patreon. We've had kind of an eventful week. No, I don't do this to fundraise. I know that there'll be people out there that say, no, this was a rough week. About 600 or so videos disappeared from the platform this week based on my own fear and paranoia and trying to comply with some things. And hopefully that is over. So I'm hoping we just move forward and everybody peaceably coexists and there are no additional issues. But in any event, I want to thank people for signing up for Patreon and just being supportive and sending messages. That goes a long way, and it keeps my spirits up. Also had a great interview with Mike from Keep Rock Alive, KRA. KRA Mike, we should call him. Really great guy. He and I had some, I guess, words on Twitter a long time ago. I actually don't even remember what was said, but he is an old school guy like me. I was going to just say old, but I don't want to throw him under the bus with the age thing. But he and I are of kind of the same age, and we look at life, I think, pretty similarly. But he was a great interview. He interviewed me for his channel, so you can check his channel out, Keep Rock Alive. He's also over on Twitter. Today I want to talk about Gary Moore. It's been just a little over 10 years, which is crazy to think that Gary Moore is no longer walking planet Earth. The autopsy 10 years ago, after his passing, said that he died of natural causes at 58 years old, which is a bit scary to think because I'm not too far away from that particular age. And his friends and people who were close to him were shocked because they felt he was vibrant and he was doing well, which, not to be all conspiracy theory here, but typically people don't die of natural causes at the age of 58. Now, there are people in this world, probably even after they've passed, not that they're here to tell you this, but maybe their family or their management, for financial reasons, they might want to tell you something to make you feel better about this person. Maybe Gary Moore was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing, but they did an autopsy and 58 and he passed of natural causes. Now, Gary Moore, for me, was one of the top guitar players of all time. He isn't talked about as much as he should be talked about. People talk about Stevie Ray Vaughan a lot, and yeah, Stevie deserves it. Obviously, we just lost Eddie Van Halen. But Gary Moore, in that time frame, I want to say late 80s into the early 90s, he did break through also in the early 80s on rock radio, but later on with Still Got the Blues and Oh Pretty Woman, and there were a cluster of rock radio songs where blues was making a comeback, or actually, if you look at the timeline of what was on mainstream rock, blues was actually making its first heavy-duty presence. And AOR stations and classic rock stations, they were eating that stuff up because, yeah, you could play Led Zeppelin, Bad Company, and Gary Moore, and your station actually flowed really well. Whereas in a few years, you would play Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, and then Soundgarden, and it wouldn't flow. Just, I know people will disagree with me, but one of the things I noticed when I came back to visit my old buddies at the rock station was how when they put on one of these 90s songs, we'll just say that, it was like mixing raw sewage with champagne. You had Led Zeppelin, and then you had, or whoever, Rolling Stones, and then you had that, and you were like, this just doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound right. But again, people disagree with me, and I'm the old guy yelling at the kids on the lawn. So what's weird though about Gary Moore and this autopsy and 58 years old is that nobody really questioned it. And I thought, I don't know. It just doesn't sound really like the true story. Apparently, he and his girlfriend went out for a sandwich and had some champagne for supper. They went out for a walk. They returned to the bar. And Gary Moore apparently drank some brandy before going to bed at around 11 p.m. And his girlfriend called everything in at around 4 a.m. So, again, it's just a tragedy. I'm not trying to make it into a conspiracy. But I mean, people talk about Terry Kath in Chicago to this day. Like, what happened to Terry Kath? Did he actually shoot himself? Did someone else do it? I mean, he was an experienced guy with firearms, and people just wonder. They're like, this just doesn't sound right. Yeah, Gary Moore wasn't physically in the best shape of his life, maybe. I don't know. I think he was a bit overweight, but there are plenty of people walking around who are a little bit overweight who, function normally. And in the case of Gary Moore, maybe there was something more to it. But unless somebody does a deep dive in and does some serious investigating, I don't think we're ever going to really know. But it's been 10 years, and it's kind of a tragedy that his music, people will say, well, it's not forgotten. Well, it kind of is. Rock radio doesn't exist anymore to play music from 30 years ago, especially blues-oriented music. I mean, the blues is where it all started. That's why we loved that back in those days. We had Robert Cray on the radio. We had Johnny Winter. These were all people that had released albums. Buddy Guy had a real popular album at the time. Johnny Winter. And we couldn't get enough of that stuff because the audience loved it, and it mixed well with Aerosmith and, Guns N' Roses, all those things that were out that had a basis in blues to some degree, had a bluesy overtone. The Black Crowes were out. I mean, there were a lot of bands that were in that wheelhouse. And when Gary Moore came on the radio, it was like the king on guitar is here now to, stop the presses when Oh Pretty Woman came on, or Still Got the Blues. You just kind of like, all right, that's it. I mean, the song just killed it. And it certainly made radio better. And I don't understand why we can't have that kind of radio diversity anymore. But it's just pretty much one sound and one style these days, and many, many formats. That's another issue. Yeah, you can go hear blues on the low end of the dial somewhere. Someone might have a blues show, or you might be able to find a blues radio station online. Or, of course, you might be able to build yourself a blues playlist, which I have on my Spotify. Rather impressive one. But it ain't the same as having these songs on the radio all kind of mixed together with the songs that you already knew by artists that have been around for decades, who all started their careers kind of playing the blues or imitating their blues heroes. Gary Moore, the unsung blues hero who passed away a little over 10 years ago because of natural causes. So that's it. That's my video. Anyway, again, thanks to all those who are subscribing to the channel, who are supporting the channel. A lot of new patrons coming on board. A lot of nice well wishes. We had an interesting week this past week, and hopefully we can all get past that. And I will continue to bring you my perspective on music and maybe a few other issues along the way. But we shall see how that all shakes down. For now, have yourself a great day, and I'll see you soon.